Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle. We already have a donation. Thank you so much, Steve. That was very nice of you. And actually, we'll try to answer some questions at the end, because I don't think this will be a very busy show. So I will hold on to your question, and we will talk about it. And answer some other questions from people in chat. But yeah, hello, welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan. We have Lucien, co-host Lucien over here, who really is the star of the show. I mean, he's got those thumbs, and he's just like, I'm the star. It's really great. Yeah, I mean, there you go. And then our audience is the stars. It's wonderful. Welcome. We're going to talk about gaming news, and then the the unseeable force that seems to congeal the universe into one. Midichlorians. I saw a diagram that was like power, and it was a bar chart, and one of them was wealth and the other one was money, and then the one off the scale was midichlorians. It's like, oh yeah, if you have midichlorians. And that was one of my favorite moments in, I was in, oh, we can't hear Lucien again. Dang it. Ah, Lucien, what are you doing? It's my headphones. It's always my headphones. They changed the thing back over.
Maybe.
He might have. Okay, now we can hear Lucien.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, I am sorry.
You do it on purpose. You just want them to hear you.
No,
I know what's going on.
So my other headphones died, and I got these new headphones, and they are they're Razer, and they have their own it's a USB interface that I'm forced to use. And gotcha. With that comes a USB sound card. So when I plug it in, it switches over to another sound card. What I need to do, and what I will do today, is I will create a profile that is the default setting is that, and then I can hit a button on my Stream Deck, and it'll be so awesome. I just have to remember to hit that button.
It'll be perfect.
Oh, I feel so dumb. I am so sorry.
Rewind the show.
Welcome to the show. There's Lucien. He's got a voice now. He can talk. And I don't even know, what do we talk about today?
Yeah, he hides me in the closet until Saturday comes around. I don't even get to come out. And then he's not going to, you guys aren't going to hear me either? Come on.
Hey, speaking is a privilege. It's not a right.
That's
okay?
True. You got it.
So,
you got it. Yep.
Just
I hear you.
be better or something. I don't know. Anyway, Strixhaven's coming out.
December 7th. I mean, how
and
far
that was
is that
delayed.
Away?
Wasn't it supposed to be in November? The end of November?
I feel like it.
I thought it was. They're plugging a lot for this book. They're doing lots of little like
saw some videos
here and there. I'm actually very excited about it because I was rethinking, or I was rereading Fizbin's, and they talk a lot about the dragons, and then they brought the dragon lore from that into Strixhaven, because the school of Strixhaven is run by dragons. It could be a lot of fun, and I just love the idea of like a dumb magical school. I want to. If the adventure's crap, then I'll be like, okay, it's crappy. But like from everything I've heard, it sounds really cool. And I actually canceled my Amazon pre-order to go and get a physical copy, because the physical copy or the alternate cover is really cool. And I decided that if I have at least one alternate cover, I can get another. So I'm gonna go get the other one. So
and of the alternate covers to get, that's a pretty good one, because it's a book that is Magic the Gathering ones. So I could see where maybe those are the ones you have as your alternate covers, but then you keep separate. Your regular D&D ones, so they match on the shelf just right.
The Theros alternate cover was really pretty too, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Did Ravnica have an alternate cover? I don't think it did.
Don't think it did.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
Just love it. But I'm excited for Strixhaven. I'm excited for being able to play Strixhaven, but then to lean into some of those tropes. Like you could create a different school that's the rival of Strixhaven.
Yeah.
You could create the inner city version school that gets to go up against the Ivy League kind of schools. So Strixhaven is that all East Coast Ivy League stuff, and then you bring in your other schools, and they're like the underdogs, but they get to win at some magical sporting event that you guys do. Just like all kinds of cool storylines.
My Kids on Brooms book, or Kids on Brooms game, one shot that I ran, was that we were like, oh, you've got the Ilvermornies and the Hogwartses and all these other things. You guys are
famous.
You are the South Street blah blah blahs, and you are not. Yeah. Nobody cares.
State sponsored,
exactly,
barely funded,
exactly. And that was a lot of fun because it's like we could all do magic, but like we're not Harry Potter rich here. So.
Yeah, they look down on you guys, but you get to come in and then you win the big dance competition or magic competition or whatever it is.
My magical acapella group is gonna finally rise up.
Throw the music in there. I think that'd be good. I think there's a missing opportunity. I think we've talked about this before. Total tangent. All of the live plays for somebody to do an acapella challenge, but it's D&D, and the game revolves around them going around and battling using acapella songs and stuff.
Or isn't that just a rap battle? I don't know.
Sure, but I think it's all D&D based.
I think we talked about
a
musical episode.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a reference for that because I am very, very sure that has now been done.
Somebody's done it?
I think that they have. They made this is the musical, and it might have been the Dragon Friends now that I think about it.
Because that would be really
the Dragon
fun.
Friends,
especially if
my favorite Australian actual live play.
Yeah.
They're really fun.
Australians are awesome.
Yeah.
Especially if they really did it seriously but funny. They could actually
this was
sing.
This was very funny.
They could actually hold a tune.
And they could. They're all comedians and actors and stuff, but they were very much the story would lead into being like, oh, sing us about your feelings, and then they'd be like, oh gosh, and they'd have to come up with something on the fly, and they had a guy playing the piano to follow along with whatever tune they decided to come up with. But it was the Dragon Friends. Now that I think about it, so okay. You should listen to the Dragon Friends. Very good show.
Because I could see that being a real, especially if you took Strixhaven, right? And that's the thing; they're battling choir groups or battling music groups from the different magical schools, and you're playing magical stuff and you're D&D. But every now and then, a musical number breaks out. I just think it could be fun.
Very cool.
Could be cool.
I love it.
So we're both buying Strixhaven. You bought Fizbins. You skipped over Witchlight, or did you buy?
Yeah, I wasn't going to buy Witchlight, but then I went to buy some magic cards,
nice.
And it was on the shelf, and I just picked it up.
Okay, so you did get that.
I did get it. I haven't read through all of Witchlight yet, which is sad. I've just been busy doing other things. I actually got, I should have brought it over here, an Old School Essentials campaign setting that I thought was really cool, and it's in the smaller book format, so it kind of lines up with the Old School Essentials stuff. But one of the things I thought was really interesting about it is they only used public domain art because they're like, we want to build this world. I want to put this out there, but I don't have money to hire artists. So they spent a long time looking at old fantasy and medieval art, and they found enough that looks similar, so it's not so jarring that it's like, oh, that is a completely different artist kind of a thing. They all kind of have the same feel. And I was just really impressed with that idea. So that was one of the reasons I backed it, to see, does that work? Could you build something using public domain images? And they did, and it looks really cool.
So you backed it? It's like a Kickstarter?
No, sorry, I bought it. It was on Drive-Thru RPG, so yeah. But I bought a print copy of it, and it arrived a couple days ago.
Because it'd be cool if you put in there, pay what you want, but if I make this much, I'm going to actually buy an artist to redo all the art in the book.
Yeah.
So you could say, hey, I get it. You only want to pay $1 for this stuff. That's cool. But if you want to fund something really cool, put $10 in there. And maybe if I get enough of those, I can have an artist come through and redo all the art.
There's some...
That'd be fun.
There's some DMsGuild authors that are doing something similar.
Yeah. Okay,
where
that's cool.
specifically it's here are... here are 10 subclasses. Mm-hmm. But if we sell over 100, I'll add 3 more. And if we sell over 1,000, I'll add 3 more. So the incentive is for your customers to go out and be like, hey, if you buy this, we might be able to get more, and then everybody's PDFs get updated.
Yeah, so you spread the word.
Yeah.
Maybe you put in a little bit more than you have to, but it's still pay what you want,
Yeah.
so you don't have to break the bank if you don't need to. I like that idea. That's a good idea, actually.
And actually, this isn't in our notes, but we should talk about it. The DMs Guild had that announcement where they were looking for people to partner with. Do you remember that? Like, we talked about it, and there was like a Google form, and you like go and fill it out, and you could be like a promoter of DMs Guild content. What was it called? Now I feel dumb.
I'd have to go back and look. Yeah, I'm not recalling that.
I have an email.
Somebody in chat will have it, I'm sure.
Oh, I know.
But while he's looking it up, don't forget December 7th is when you can pick up Strixhaven in your stores.
DMs Guild Heralds. Do you remember this?
Oh. No, did you talk to Lex or somebody about it?
No, it was on the show. I'm pretty sure we talked about it on the show. So it's called DMs Guild Heralds. And what they do is they're doing a trial program of you could apply, and it's just like, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to increase your affiliate percentage, and we're going to give you like a coupon code, and that is to encourage you. Ted mentioned it on his show. Thank you, Steve. And that was to encourage you to go and promote more DMs Guild stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I remember we were talking about it, and we were kind of like, I don't know, if I'm like on the fence, because the DMs Guild is kind of like, I don't like that the author doesn't retain any of it, but it's also kind of cool to get paid, and like, where can you go? But the DMs Guild is also very confusing.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff put out there, and I don't want to sound mean to any of the people that have sent me stuff, but I get sent a lot of stuff because of the YouTube channel, and not all of it is good. And that's why I always say, like, I only really review things that I think I would buy. And sometimes I review things that I'm like, this is just cool, but for the most part, I get sent these things, and I'm like, I don't need that, and it's not that it's like poorly done, it's just kind of you're not filling a niche I don't think anybody needs. Well, with this DMs Guild Herald program, you're supposed to be able to have a direct connection with the DMs Guild, and then they will recommend things based on like their review system, so that you can kind of bypass that. You're not being like sent thousands of PDFs and Jordan would have to sift through them. So long story short,
yes,
I applied and I got in.
Oh, nice.
So I am one of the 12 DMs Guild Heralds.
Wow.
If you use the coupon code Herald Jorphdan 5, it's good for 5% off.
Crazy.
$5 digital community created content on the
You
DMs
are like
Guild.
Galactus. He has heralds to go
yes.
out and pick worlds to eat.
Where
in the
is my
universe.
Silver Surfer?
Yes, I'm your Silver Surfer.
There you go.
Very cool.
So
I
I don't know who all like entered or whatever, but I threw my name in the hat because I was curious, and I've done DMs Guild stuff in the past, and it kind of made sense. So we'll see. What I really need is another like super big Keith Baker thing to come out so that I have a reason to make something. But they're sending me a few PDFs to be like, what are you interested in? And I'm working on a video after I get through this weekend about introducing myself as a DMs Guild Herald, and basically like, here are PDFs that I recommend. So there you go.
Very cool.
Could be fun. That's my story. Sorry.
That's a great story. So that have to go out to the DMs Guild. Very cool. You have to start signing up, because a lot of the other game companies are starting to do that too. Pathfinder talked about their new.
Oh yeah, they're partnering
Monty Cook
with.
Was talking about their.
It's the
doing
same
one for
company,
them.
right? The
think
Drive
so.
Through RPG DMs Guild company, whatever that is,
Yeah.
Book Press or something. So.
So some of those other ones are trying to allow their community to create stuff, and then everybody gets a split. And
Yeah.
That's super cool. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of I just get sad that you can't publish it anywhere else. So if I make something for the DMs Guild, I can't publish it anywhere else. But the DMs Guild gives you all of that Forgotten Realms information. In a lot of things, they give you art. And so I've been listening to that podcast that our guest last week recommended about Keith Baker talking about like the origins of Eberron. I've been listening to that.
Yeah.
And because it's very good. And Keith Baker was saying, like, I really can't wait, and I hope that that Wizards of the Coast opens Eberron up on the DMs Guild, because then I can make content for it. So this podcast is like 5 years old or something, like way old, because now we have all kinds of Eberron content. But from Keith Baker's perspective, he's like, I can't make new Eberron content and get paid for it because Wizards owns it. So this is a way for him to actually do that, and he loves Eberron, and so he went through. And I thought, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So if you really love the Realms, if you really love Ravenloft, if you really love all of these like settings that you can't actually, like, I can't make a detailed Forgotten Realms game and sell it, utilizing the DM's Guild, you can. And so that's the appeal of it. But I still think if I was going to make something, I want to like leave it somewhat system neutral, like our cliff one.
Yeah.
Like, we could easily set that in the Realms and do all this other stuff, but it's like, no, it doesn't have to be. Like, it's kind of cool on its own. So, I don't know. But
yes, for sure. We need to do a hashtag, free Keith Baker. Let him, produce as much Eberron. Why stifle him creating Eberron content? They should have a clause for him to say he should be able to create Eberron content with any company out there that he wants to make a deal with. They don't have to give that same deal to everybody else. Maybe everybody else can't just jump on that, but why not let Keith do it?
I don't know. I mean,
they're making tons of money.
That was a Wizards Hasbro creation.
Well, I get it. It's a contest. It's a
no, not even just the contest, but like I think TSR was a very different company from Wizards of the Coast, and you'll notice that they've never put the Artificer out there, because it's like, well, Wizards of the Coast created the Artificer. We're gonna hold on to that. Whereas like all the other TSR stuff, they were like, oh, okay, so. Yeah. But they very specifically are. Company. Yeah, they're hot. They're just holding on to that.
Yeah. Like, we're not letting you build He-Man, buddy. Yeah. You don't get He-Man. This is Hasbro, or I don't know if they have He-Man or not, but they're serious about their IPs, because they develop them, then they build the cartoons and the lores around them, build the toys to sell them, and they don't want nobody coming in and taking any of that chunk of money. Yeah. But free Keith Baker.
Free Keith.
Because I still listen to, he puts out great tweets. He does a big blog about stuff he's developing in the system still. He talks about his games he runs. He runs his games in Eberron. So he loves that world. He's in it still to this day. Still puts content out for people to check out.
From a world design standpoint,
shackle that guy.
Yeah, you're right. You're like you're not providing us, or you're not allowing the creative master to create.
Let that genius go.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting podcast to listen to, because he talks a lot about, and I guess this is only in like the first couple episodes, but they compare Eberron to the Forgotten Realms a lot, because the Forgotten Realms was kind of like the baby that they had, and they evolved it and got better and things. But the Realms, like, they wanted the novels to tie into the Realms, and they wanted to have this living Forgotten Realms that evolved over time. And Keith was saying in the podcast, he's like, he really fought that. He's like, no, like, we can have novels, but they are not canonical in any way. Like, we can have you can play in the future, you can play in the past, but like, there is no timeline that we're like, this is the current timeline of Eberron. It's always 2 years after the war. Like, but if you want to change that, you can. But like, when we make content for Eberron, it's always 2 years after the war. And he said he fought tooth and nail, and he's really happy because they have, like, Wizards of the Coast has honored that in a not contractual obligation after third edition, I guess. They've always kind of been like, okay, like, yeah. And so he's like, I'm really happy that they do that, because he thinks it helps Eberron. And I do too. Now that he kind of put it into perspective, like, all the problems that people have with the Realms is because of, like, oh, well, this happened, or like, I don't know, I read this book and that shouldn't be there anymore. And it's like, oh, yeah, no. Like, Like, yeah. And now I kind of want to read one of Keith's novels set in Eberron.
So
because
it's interesting.
everything he creates, he says, is a way for you to get inspired and run your own game. Whereas Forgotten Realms is not about being inspired. It's about, like, this is such a cool setting. We should play a game here. But there's no DM that's like, wow, I wish I told that story. I don't know. Like,
yeah. So he's really advocating then his campaign is more about a place and time campaign than it is about a place campaign.
Yeah. What?
And the time is probably even more important. Like the 2 years after the war. That's the most important part of Eberron is that it's 2 years after that war. Mm-hmm. So it's the time period is the most important thing for that campaign. And normally we don't think of building campaigns that way.
Yeah, it's the kettle.
We don't think of it that way.
Yeah, it's the boiling kettle, I guess. Like, I don't know, or the idea that something interesting just happened. What do you want to do? And the unknown, you know? Whereas, like, if we said, if we did the Forgotten Realms, but you were like, okay, it's I don't know, 50 years after the Spell Plague. So, the Spell Plague is done. There are people that lived through it. There are people that are changed by it. Let's explore that moment, that world. But we don't do that. We don't even talk about the Spell Plague anymore. So, yeah.
Well, we never know where you... Well, and the current... I mean, we do have a year for the current modules, right? They usually tell us it's DR 15 something.
Yeah, it's wishy-washy, but they're in there.
Yeah, so, it's not like nailed
I found a blog post that talked about... Here's the canonical order of the 5e Forgotten Realms adventures.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like an analogy is like the kids' sandbox is how most of us create campaign worlds, and you get to go play in the kids' sandbox. But Keith said, I'm not building a sandbox. I'm building recess at 2 o'clock. And that's what my campaign world is about. It's about recess at 2. Whereas all of ours is about the sandbox itself, no matter when. How it got there, before it was there, after it's there, during it's there. We're building a place. He's building a point in time. That's just a different concept of building a campaign. I think that's cool. I had never realized that.
And this leads us into Lucian's going to run a new game. It's called Recess.
Yes.
He's really excited about it.
Yes.
This is all... No.
Well, yeah, well, that actually does... I have some huge ideas right now. You've been seeing them in our chat because I keep coming up with these cool ideas that I want to run. I got to run something here soon. It's gotta happen. So I might be putting some feelers out to our fans to see if I could find a couple of players that are, maybe want to play in a campaign that of heroes, because I only run campaigns of heroes. To play out some of these ideas, mini campaigns to try some ideas out, test some of the things we've talked about, and play around with, because I've just been getting so many.
Cliff.
That's one of them for sure. I want to iron that out.
Everyone in chat chant with me, Cliff.
Yeah, we're still trying to name that, but yes. I think of it as World's Edge is what I keep thinking.
World's Edge is pretty good.
World's Edge.
World's End, but that's then you get that Edgar Wright movie. I don't know. So.
Yeah.
There was a D&D we got 2 D&D actual plays. I don't know if you saw Battle for Beyond, which is D&D Beyond's actual play. It was pre-recorded, much like Critical Role now. I guess they pre-record everything. They don't do it live anymore. And I'm pretty sure this was pre-recorded as well, because it had a lot of intros and stuff. And then they do a premiere on YouTube and Twitch where they stream it, But Battle for Beyond, D&D Beyond decided to, rather than just promoting Critical Role anymore, they're like, oh, there's money in this. So they went and found a whole, but I think the main star for everybody is Abria is in it. And she was the one who ran the Critical Role, side quest thing.
The short campaign during the break.
Yeah. Yep. Exandria Unlimited, I think. So Abria's in it, and a bunch of other funny people. There's a guy that he did a lot of this. He ran a lot of stuff for another RPG company, and I think he's a player now, but he was a DM. So I have not watched it, but it was a big thing, and it was aired last night, and I got a lot of advertisements for it when I was trying to play Magic the Gathering, and I'm like, what is this?
Aired where?
Huh?
Aired where?
On YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the note says aired on television.
No. That is later. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So Battle for Beyond is down here. I need you to focus. That's Battle for Beyond.
There it is. Yes.
But the other cool thing is they're going to do a D&D actual play. G4 is doing this, the television G4.
That makes sense.
So G4 is doing an actual play, but the weird concept is that it's not where D&D fans are currently watching D&D.
No.
So it's not a podcast. It's not a Twitch show. It's not a YouTube. It's not whatever. This is going to be aired live on television with a bunch of comedians and actors. And I thought that was interesting. I think it will also be on Twitch and YouTube because they're not dumb.
Probably.
But like and I don't think that there's, a bunch of people checking out, G4 like.
Well, I think they're trying to revive it. It's like
a
rebirth of that channel because it went away, it was gone.
Yeah.
But they've done award shows. They've really tried.
And they've really partnered with Wizards because they're
a gaming.
Wizards'
channel.
last thing was like sponsored by G4. Their last,
and there were some good shows on the original G4 stuff, Attack of the Show and all that stuff. No, I love that stuff from a gaming perspective, not from like. They're putting out Game of Thrones episodes or something like that, or Netflix, but from them doing gaming news or keeping track of all of the conventions that are going on out there, or all of the. I always liked that channel. So I could see a television channel.
But that's how far we've come with D&D.
Yeah, they have a channel.
Is the point I wanted to talk about? Is like that's not some weird internet show that somebody's doing in their basement. Critical Role is their own thing. Voice cracked. Critical Role is their own thing. But this is on television. How crazy. But I guess we shouldn't be that
professional studio.
Yeah. Well, they are. But I shouldn't be this surprised because Critical Role's first season 3 episode 1 was in theaters. Yeah. So that's even like a little bigger than television in my view. But yeah.
They've definitely branched out because they do live shows, they do scheduled shows, they do indie shows, they do big production shows. It's just like it's everywhere now at this point.
But it was funny about this actual play on television because who has TV anymore? Like I don't. I stream everything.
All I watch is Netflix, Hulu.
Yeah. So I'm like, even though
HBO.
You're like G4's like we're back, I'm like I don't intend to buy a $80 cable package to watch you. I'm sorry. So
well, speaking of Critical Role, did you watch the last couple of episodes?
I haven't seen any episodes of season 3.
You should actually watch a couple of them. They're actually pretty good.
I really like it more as a podcast. And I should just put it on while I'm at work and listen to it.
But there are a couple of good moments, like in this last episode, or before Thursday night, the one just before that, right towards the end, Matt describes a scene that has everybody at the table's facial expressions are just classic. Like they are riveted. They had no idea. They're in shock what he's explaining to them. Because sometimes you get sucked into the moment, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell, even though they're actors, they just got sucked into the moment. They had no idea, and it's like he hit him in the forehead with a hammer. And then they start up this next Thursday, and I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, but it's a really cool trope that he used and that one of his players had kind of worked together to make, and it made a cool moment. So it's definitely one of those, if you're going to watch an episode, go back and watch, I think it's 3 and 4, or is it 2 and 3? I have to look it up which one it is, but it's pretty
Start
good.
from the beginning, and when you get there, you'll know.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty fun. I'm having trouble trying to like stay up late and listening to it. I'm having to listen to it again on Mondays or whatever when they re-release it, but I'm intrigued so far. I didn't stick too long with the last one.
Yeah.
I jumped all over the first one. This one I'm kind of lukewarm, but I'm just kind of so far still with it, and it's only.
I feel like I really liked the characters in season 2, and maybe that's just because season 2 is coming out when it was like a lot bigger, and I never really got into the Vox Machina crew other than the Barbarian. that was played by Travis, I thought was really
Grog
funny.
was great.
Yeah. But the rest of them, I'm like, I don't really know. But like, I really, we had the weird goblin that was a halfling, and we had, like, they had really unique characters, and Jester was just hilarious. And maybe it's also because of Ginny D that Jester was just escalated to like super stardom, I feel, but I don't know. That being said, these characters in the season 3 also look really memorable and fantastic, and it's only been a little bit of time, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know, I guess it's when you get good voice actors and stuff, they just know how to build a character.
Well, and the addition of the new cast member actually has worked out really well too.
Oh, cool.
It's been really good to have Damien on there.
Nice.
He adds a dynamic of, I'm a new player, but I'm also a voice actor, and I'm getting into it. So he still gets surprised by things. I think that's what I think will sell that show a lot, is that when the Beholder gets described to him, he's probably never heard of what the Beholder is. Yeah, he's just like, well,
that's kind of cool, and everyone else is like...
yeah, and they're just like... And he's just like... So I think sometimes we're there to see those kinds of moments.
Yeah.
And you don't get that after 3 seasons of the characters that are veteran characters, although they're great and they do good stuff. But you still want to see that surprise and that wonder of, what are you describing? It has tentacles and eyes, and it's floating. What is it doing? And then all of a sudden an I-beam hits you or something. It's just like, what?
Yeah. I always think about, this was a running joke at one of my tables where we would say Council of Liches. And then the veteran players are just like, a council? Like, do you mean witches? And we're like, no, he said liches. What? And everyone's like, can you have a council? How many is a council? And everyone freaks out. But the new player's just like, is that bad? Like, what is that? Like, so
yeah, what's
funny.
A lich even? So that's pretty good.
We were talking about this.
Talk about that.
Oh, go ahead. What?
No, just this Critical Role has been really good. It's kind of been fun, and I like the location they're in. Jungle City described as a really cool. Lots of trolley tram things moving from big spires to big spires, and it's all tiered as it's built up on these big, like, I think of them in my head as like the big stone fingers that you see like out in I don't know, out in the middle of the Fiji or something. Out, you know how they just have those big rocks that rise up out of the water,
like basalt,
and they're just just huge and made by crazy tectonic movements, and then now build city around all of those and connect them with walkways and tram lines and things. I just thought, oh, it's such a cool idea.
That's way cool.
So I think it's been really cool. Not to spoil, but a character died in the 3rd, so we get to see a character transition, which is cool. I always like to see if a character dies and what they're going to bring back, so that's cool.
Oh, interesting.
And it tied in a little bit because in my campaign some characters died. But we'll get to that later.
I can't gasp anymore.
No.
I'm gonna faint. Kobold Press. We were just talking about before the stream started how much we like Kobold Press and that they're doing really good stuff. And they got a book called Vault of Magic that came out. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care about the Kickstarter, but once it came out and people were talking about it, it's probably one of the coolest books, and I definitely bought it, and it's on its way to my house. But it's just magic items. Mm-hmm. But what is really unique about it, what I wanted to bring to the table, is that apparently in the very back, just like the DMG has those random tables to roll on, this book has those same tables that incorporates the DMG items as well as all of these items from Vault of Magic. So if you really want to surprise your players about what's in that dragon horde, like
treasure rolls,
that's what you need. And I thought that was really cool. So you can really get some unique magic items. You can flip through it. I don't know. It's. I was looking at the PDF. It's intimidating how many magic items are in here. But I really love the idea of random magic items because players don't necessarily, like, you can cater things to certain players and that's fun and fine. But when you roll randomly and the player's like, what sword is this? Like, that's memorable for me. So
my little trick with that had always been to let them roll at the end the different numbers. So like I would pick a player and say, okay, roll me, give me a percentile roll, give me a D6. All right, this is how much platinum was in that pile. And then be like, all right, magic item time. Who's going to roll?
Yeah.
Chart G, here we go. And somebody get to roll and be like, it's this, and like, so they're kind of invested in the Vegas-like style of getting to roll. And then I'm going through the chart going, oh, it's a wand of magic missile, or wand of fireballs or whatever it could be.
I did that, and it was funny because everybody rolled a magic potion, and they were all kind of sad, except the fighter rolled some magical sword that he could take the bonuses of the attack and apply it to his armor. So it's a +3 longsword, but he could make it a +1 longsword and give himself a bonus +2 AC. And everyone else is like, I got a potion that lets me breathe underwater, and he's got like a magic sword. And I was like, that's the breaks.
Hey, you rolled it. Wasn't me.
You rolled it. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I love that.
Too funny.
I love that.
What is the no one-shot? What is this?
Yeah, so there's no one-shot kill in 5e. You can't just walk up and take your sword and stab it through somebody's head in 5e and just kill them. Your sword only does 1d6 of damage or 1d8 plus your strength. So if you walk up to anybody that's above level
like a
1,
coup de grace or whatever, where
there's just no I just stab you in the back.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know.
Now magic, you'll have you can have one shot of magic can kill you, or
anything that does damage up to your hit point or double your hit points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and by the time you're like second or third, you're past the threshold where, somebody just kind of slowly sticks a dagger into your heart and you're dead.
Yeah.
There's no chance for a dagger to kill you, even if it's sticking in your heart in 5e. I always thought that was interesting that they've moved to that. And I always thought, well, what do you think about that? Does that make D&D 5e less deadly? So it's because, like, if we start talking about DCC, you very well could go and stick a dagger into somebody's heart and they could die right away.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to think about it, the rules are the same
in some ways.
But I don't know if there's like, I'd have to go look at DCC. But it made me think of, I've been reading a lot about game design, and an idea within like a tabletop gaming community is that you always kind of have the same health. So a level 1 to level 20, you have like 10 health, 8 to 10 health. But level 1, you're really easy to hit, and level 20, you're not. And so how do you do that on a hit or miss system like a die roll? Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, let's roll dice. Oh, you missed me. And then if you keep the same hit points, but you evolve like better tactics,
how hard it is to get hit. Yeah.
Do you have a separate pool of hit points to gamify how hard you are to hit? Right. But I kind of, now that you bring this up, I kind of like the idea of having the same amount of hit points, because it's like, well, we're all human, Yeah. So.
Well, it was relevant because when I was watching the critical role scene, and we've talked about the show is always going to have spoilers anyways, but there was a cool moment where I was thinking, like, as a dungeon master, there might be a cool moment where you want to, for dramatic effect, have the super strong bad guy walk up, punch his fist through somebody, pull out the beating heart.
Yeah.
And that character's done, right? Mm-hmm. Whoever that is, or that player, or that NPC, or whatever. But if you try to follow the rules, you would have to roll, and potentially, just because you rolled a 1 or something on the dice, the Strahd would miss ripping the heart out of the person in front of them. You know what I mean? So, unless I guess you said I give myself advantage for this reason, or you start to gamify why you could do it. But I just thought, so you don't get those knife edge moments that turn on the dime of, oh my God, what just happened? Because usually damage is being tacked on, and you can see the end coming. Now, magic can make that a little bit different, because there are some magic spells that are hit hard enough that it's like you get hit once and you're down. So that definitely works. But I'm just thinking the melee part of it. If I have a big, giant, two-handed sword, there's never a point through 3rd level all the way up to 20th level that you're afraid of getting hit by the two-handed sword anymore, unless you get hit like 4 or 5 times, right?
And
but you're not afraid of the one big cleave hitting you in the head and splitting you in half after third level.
I think this makes me think of 2 things. One of them is losing appendages in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is also not something that you're scared of in Dungeons and Dragons, is losing an appendage, because it's like, oh, this huge sword comes down and it's like, I didn't lose my arm. Even though there's certain classes that have like regrow appendages and stuff, I kind of wish that it was more prevalent in 5e. That being said, DCC, it is very prevalent, because you roll on a fumble chart, or a monster rolls on a crit chart, and you could very easily lose that, and then your walking speed, or you can only take 1 action rather than 2 because you only have 1 hand.
It's also in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, because they have the exploding damage dice.
Right.
So everything's a d6 when you're rolling damage, and just how many d6s do you get. But in that game, if you roll a 6, you pick that dice up and you roll again and you add it. And if you get another d6, you pick it up and you roll it again. So that, to me, allows the orc with the big axe. It still is random, but the potential is there that all of a sudden I roll 4 or 5 6s, and your 3rd level character is split in half by that orc axe. It's just like,
interesting.
It's done. But they don't have that in 5e. So I thought, and the reason I think it was relevant also is that in Critical Role, Matt wanted to describe a scene of a very capable assassin-like character walking up to a player and devastating that player basically in one shot. Like, could happen. Like, if you have a true assassin catches you unawares, you turn around just as the sword is popping you right into your heart, that's game over at that point, right? That should be game over. But you can't dice that out. You would have to roll to hit them. You'd have to roll to do the damage if you're going to use the rules. You couldn't just have it happen.
It always comes back to, I guess, if I wanted to do that, then the DM would say, because you were off guard and because you were this and this, I'm doing an extra plus 25 points of damage to this D4 I'm about to roll.
Automatic crit hit. Yeah. You're finding rules that give you the damage to do it.
But in the end of the day, like, I guess it's, why don't you do that as a dungeon master? I guess your player might be a little upset that you're not following the rules, but it's like, did it get a really cool point across? I don't know.
Yeah.
DM Nathan, I didn't like my character and the monk that I was playing, and I said, hey, maybe we can like phase it out for this other character, and he's like, I got
this
you.
This is the instance this is exactly what I'm talking about. Keep going.
Oh no, and he did. He like, my guy ran up to go attack, and he said the monster took me and like skewered me on the metal spikes that he had coming off of his body, and I was just dead.
Yeah.
And everyone there was like, did you know about this? Like, can we heal him? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess you can try, so.
Yeah.
But.
So I just thought that was interesting. And it became relevant because of Critical Role. I was watching it, but then it also became relevant in my campaign. And so when we get back to it, I'm going to bring it back.
No, let's talk about it now. Like, we only got 15 minutes. Go.
We're getting there. So Dungeon of the Mad Mage, spoilers, because we've always talked about spoilers with Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We're down on like level 9 or 10 at this point, and we're in the crazy magic weird school, and we're messing around.
Strixhaven Light, the South Strix.
Yeah, it's like definitely like a darker rated R version of Strixhaven.
It's pretty bad. Okay.
Yeah. So we walked through these statues in a hallway that were definitely reminiscent of Neverending Story. But when we walk through them, apparently the mechanic is, for our Australian Dungeon Master in the book, is that you roll, and most of the time you're going to get like I think they either tell you a joke or they insult you or something. So the statues kind of talk to you or something as you go through them. And it's no big deal. So we go up, we check a door, do some stuff, and we're like, okay, we're done there. We're going to go back. But what we didn't realize is one of the options on the roll is that those statues cast Power Word Kill. So there's a very, 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 very small chance you get that. And there's a big chance you get all this other funny stuff that you wouldn't even think twice about. All of us walked through there. All of us got funny insults or whatever. On the way back, Danimal rolled 4 times in a row, Power Word Killed, and killed 3 of the characters.
What? 3 of the players?
The 3 of the players. Yeah. And then I walk through, and I have 107 hit points at this point in my character. and Power Word Kill can only kill you if you have less than 100 points.
Oh.
So I walked through and I made it. I didn't actually, the spell didn't work, but it could have killed me had I been damaged enough or had some damage on me, not being a fighter arcane archer. But it was funny that he rolled it the 3 times, and we had scrolls and we had magic, and it turned it into something that wasn't as big a deal. But it was that moment of one thing happens, one dice roll happens, and boom, you're just dead.
Yeah.
There's no other roll there. There was no, I don't think he made a Constitution saving throw. I don't think he did anything. It was just dead. So I thought, it made me think how powerful magic is, but yet we don't make melee fighting or weapon fighting as deadly as that is, when it really should be. Like, somebody waving a huge metal sword in your face should be just as deadly as somebody casting Power Word Kill on you, because if that sword hits you in the face, you're done at any point in that fight.
Yeah. And that's where I think if you had maybe crit tables of like losing an arm or getting a lung punctured or something, like that would be.
Yeah. And then regular spells and things can't just heal those things. Maybe they can stop further damage at that point, but you've got to go to some specialized thing somewhere or create a ritual that's going to regrow a limb, or it has to be pretty hard to get that, because if the players are walking around with spell slots that they can burn, that's just like, we'll just regrow that leg.
No, like if your halfling gets stabbed by some kind of like specter ghost in the shoulder, I mean, you're going to use like King's Foot to try and slow it, but ultimately you got to go to the elves, because they're going to be able to extract that poison. So yeah. So I
kind of wish there was more of that in melee 5e, and I think it's just this idea of just being a little bit more deadlier.
But do you think that would slow down the game to do that, or if we add crit tables and stuff, it does. Like, I love Dungeon Crawl Classics. That game chugs in combat sometimes, like looking up all the random tables and what's going on here, and like
I think that's why they got rid of them for sure.
Oh yeah, I like the idea of it. I don't know. Like, I wonder if you could just have like distribute cool points or something, and so it's like, okay, I want to spend my cool point to do something cool, but then the DM gets cool points to be able to spend against you or something. So
I think I'm starting to lean more back towards having exploding damage dice.
Oh, okay.
So that it's possible the dice can back up the opportunity for it to happen. It'll still be a low chance because you're good at fighting and you have your shield and you know how to fight and you know how to dodge, you know how to do all these things, but it's still, the danger is still there. Like right now, the barbarian in our group, he never has to worry about walking away and taking an attack of opportunity, because no attack of opportunity is ever going to do 98 points of damage, might have, because of resistance.
He's not concentrating on
physical
anything,
attack. When in reality, you still could have your spine snapped by something, that's hitting you in the back or something. So I just thought it was a weird disparity that I hadn't recognized or remembered or just called out, that melee fighting level 1, it's super deadly and nobody wants to get in a fight level 1, right? And magic's deadly, melee's deadly, all of it's deadly. But quickly after 2nd or 3rd level, melee doesn't seem as deadly, and it does good chunks of damage, but it doesn't do that big spike damage that just wipes a character out in one shot, for the most part. I'm sure chat's probably saying, well, you could do this and that, and if you critted here and you did this assassination move with this class, but in general, the melee doesn't seem as dangerous as the magic does. So I just thought it was interesting, and it made for an interesting game. And we had to revive. I think we used Revivify 2 times to bring up 2 of them. I forget how we brought up the 3rd one. Maybe we had a scroll to bring them up, or somebody cast.
Divine
we have
Intervention,
several casters. Yeah. So we got all back up, and now we're moving along. But I just thought it was a funny kind of thing. And the Dungeon Master, which was funny, Danimal, he was shocked because he had rolled that number 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
To Power Word Kill, 4 of our characters in a row, which was fun.
That's a dungeon thing that I love, because like you're like, oh, these like cheeky statues are making fun of me. And then you like go get your friend. You're like, hey, check this out. Look at this. It's so funny. And they walk in and they're poof. They're like dust. And it's like, what?
They're on the ground.
They're like, yeah, well, I rolled. There's a 10% chance. So yeah, funny.
Pretty funny. I thought. So that was pretty good. Every day that passes by, I'm getting more and more of an itch to run some games, to try out some things.
So you've been talking a lot about games, though. What do you want to play, or what do you want?
I want to play the Cliff. I want to run 3 players, maybe 4 players, but maybe just 3, and I want to run them through that. I want to run a couple of those ideas I've been typing in chat about some different ways of doing classes, where we were talking about a style of classes where you pick a archetype, which is basically an archetype of a class, and then you combine it with an element.
Oh, me and you chat.
And the archetype, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. We have our host chat. We have our private host chat where we talk a lot. I thought you meant the chat in the thing, and I'm like, I don't remember you posting this. But yeah, we were talking about because that's the fun of like, you choose a race and a class, but you were saying like I kind of want to take like spellcaster and
an element,
and maybe this, and then combine it with an element to create these unique characters. Yeah.
So that way you could still have like, an archetype would be fighter, right? But I always like the idea that if we all pick fighters, we're kind of the same, and then it's our subclass and our race that would set us apart in D&D, for example. But in this system, I was thinking about, well, what if you took that a step further, and it was we could have lots of fighters, but somebody who took a fire element, and somebody who took the ice element, and somebody who took the light element or the dark element would be very different fighters. They're fighters, but they have very different ways of fighting and doing things.
And incorporating their fighter skills with their elemental skills and stuff,
Right, and how that would make them very different. I just thought, that would be such a fun way. And we were talking about, like, even just taking one of those examples, like where we took fighter as the archetype and we took fire elemental, and you could turn that into, like, you could give it a cool name. So that's like the dragon warrior or the dragon fire, the dragon knight, and he has these attacks that maybe gets a breath weapon, and maybe he can put flame on his blade, and you could do some cool stuff. But then when you came up against a warrior or a fighter archetype and the dark element, or I think I was going to use life and death element, you could have like a death knight, or you could have like a some type of reaper, maybe could be the name of it, and they do different things with the death element. It makes them fight in a different way. Maybe they're more mobile. Maybe they have things like allow them to do like the teleporting around in shadows and stuff, or maybe they get to add a little bit of necrotic damage to some of the things they do, or some type of. So I just think it'd be cool as a way to be able to describe the differences between them.
And we were talking about that with almost choosing 2 classes. Like on odd levels you would get fighter abilities, and on even levels you would get fire abilities. And then the fun is around level 4 you figure out how to combine these. So I'm able to combine my level 2 and my level 4 ability to make that level 4 ability better or something, which would be like igniting your sword on fire. So
so my idea was to run a game like this but not explain it to the players at all.
That'll go over not well.
Right? So the idea is, but here's the premise of the game, is that they are playing people new to the game. Okay? So they don't know about this stuff, and they get a choice, or I create a scenario that allows them to pick. And so they get to this thing, or they go through a trial, and at the end of the trial it's explained to them, hey, you can pick an archetype based on the way you got through the maze, or the way you went through the trial, and you can choose these things, and then here's these elements you can choose from. Which ones do you choose? And when they tell me, then I say, okay, that makes you this. You are now, this is your class. And then only as they level up do they get to know. I tell them what their next abilities are. And you're right, maybe players aren't excited about playing something they don't know what's in the future. But in some ways, I think that would be pretty fun, because in some ways that's like playing the computer games, right? You don't necessarily know, unless you go look it up, what your next ability might be. If you played World of Warcraft in the beginning and you just were ramping through it, all you were doing is leveling up and waiting to see what next ability you got.
Yeah.
right? So there's a moment in
D&D
time.
can be like that too. Like there's lots of people that are like, do I get a new spell? Like what do I do?
Right.
Like
So
they don't know what you're getting.
So that's the idea I was thinking about putting with the campaign.
Gotcha.
At the same time. And so you have this mystery of what the class you're going to play is and what you get when you advance, and a cool world aspect, either using World's Edge or the Cliff, or using, I've got a couple of other ideas, like I wanted to do a center of the earth kind of campaign. I want to do a couple of other ideas that I thought would be fun campaigns, and kind of pair those two things together and see what the players thought of it after we played 4, 5, 6 different sessions, and see if they were really getting into it, or if they're like, no, it was a cool idea, it's like sounds good when you talk about it, but then when you try to play it, it's not as interesting. But those are some of the ones that I just want to experiment with. I want to experiment with taking some interesting ideas and surprising the players with them and see how they react, really.
Let's do it.
I
want you to run a game. Do it up.
I'm ready.
Danimal had the best name for our Cliff game. Cliffhaven Curriculum of Gravity.
Okay. I'm on board.
Pretty good.
Cliffhaven.
I mean, that adventure writes itself. You're in a school on a cliff. It's a haven for you. Too fun.
Danimal's our first one. So what about you? You got a few minutes left. What kind of games you been running, or?
Yeah, I've been
not running or wanting
not
to
running.
Run?
Well, I've been busy with. Let's see. We had Halloween, which is on Sunday, and we had Birthday, which was the week before Halloween, and so it had been, and then something happened.
Yeah, we had missed a couple of games in there too.
Yeah, like just life,
Yeah.
And then I also I've been needed at home because the wife is off doing some theater stuff, so I have been missing my my Nathan DM games. So I'm home on Thursdays, which is really, I mean, I like hanging out with my child. I'm not trying to say that, but I also miss D&D. So I started running Dungeon Crawl Classics though, like early October with that group of people on Sundays, and we met again finally, but it's like we had to do a lot of like, how do we play? Where were we? What's going on? Kind of a thing. And so a lot of the game was trying to figure out that. But they all leveled up by the end of it. And this is the first time that I've had like a level 2 game of Dungeon Crawl Classics. I've always ran
funnels
0 level
right?
funnels or level 1, and then we're done. Like I truly believe that Dungeon Crawl Classics works really well as a one-shot kind of system. Yeah. But I wanted to explore the idea of playing it longer. Yeah, well, you got a lot of drinks to take. There you go. One of the fun things about level 2 is in the DCC annual, which was like extra rules that you could apply to Dungeon Crawl Classics. One of them is mustache magic. And
okay, I saw this in the notes.
And you get to roll a personality check. And if you roll a 20 or higher on your personality check, which is very difficult to do when a lot of people have like a +1 or a 0 to their personality.
Because they don't stat it? Yeah.
Then, well, you don't even get to choose because you roll down the line with our characters are really funny. So you get mustaches. So, and then you have whisker points that you can spend to activate weird mustache magic. They're very silly. Of the... How many players did we have? Like 6, I think. 3 of them got mustaches.
Got it? Oh
yeah.
My God.
And so the other ones were really sad because they're like, I want a mustache. I'm like,
we need a whole mustache campaign.
Yeah, I was like, I think that's the fun of DCC is like you don't get it this time, but you might later on. I don't know. Yeah. So I sent them a bunch of PDFs, and they're going to look over their mustache options, and then we're gonna play tomorrow, but they're gonna have mustaches and be level 2, and it's really exciting. And that is like
they
the
need
goofiness.
to cosplay it.
So
they need to cosplay that.
It's got to be
really good.
It's got to grow now. It's so funny though. So yeah. We're exploring Hot Springs Island, having a good time. So
it's always good to go back.
I think
How do you
I'm
feel
going
about
to
going back again.
What?
How do you feel about going back now?
I like
you ran
it a lot.
before.
Yeah.
It was a cool campaign that had a lot of cool stories in it. Now you're going back. Different group, same group?
Different group, yeah.
So a different group, you get to see a different group try to tackle.
And I it reminded me of like, you know, the people that just play in the same setting, like you love that setting, and that's why you're playing in it. And I had a lot of fun with this, and you know it really well, and that's kind of how I feel about this. But groups are different. And so the first time I ran this, that group was all about exploration. And they were just like, I want to go what's over there, like what's over here. And the more I'm playing with these guys, I'm like, I think they need a little more, like they need a goal. That's not just what's over that mountain. So I'm going to pre-roll some adventure stuff and then I'm going to craft a campaign basically using Hot Springs Island. And I think that they'll enjoy it more, and I think I'll get more out of it the second time around where I can kind of curate the game a little bit more. So,
yeah, I love the type of players you had in your first game, the ones that are willing to go out and explore, because I want to run a sandbox, hex crawly.
Yeah.
I'm the world. You guys tell me where you want to go. But
It's
I
so
always
fun.
get
Yeah.
the players that are looking for the quest line.
Yeah.
They're not looking to go over a hill. They're like, where did the DM put the quest line? So I keep getting that group of players, and I'm like, that's not the style I want. I want explorers.
Sometimes I just want people to be like, I just want money. Like, and you tell them, they're like, well, there's money out there. Go find it. And then they're like, oh, okay. And they go out there. But these players are like, so why are we here? Like,
what's the intrigue?
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, like, and then they'll be like, so my goal is to get off the island? And I'm like, well, yeah.
So they start building a boat?
And they're like, well, should I build a boat? Like, why would I go over there? So it's a lot of... And I think they just need a little more direction, so I'm going to...
A little nudge.
I'm going to work that in.
I hear you.
Should be fun.
Well, I'm telling you, I want to get... I want to run a game that has, like, you and Danimal and, like, maybe one or two other people that we pick. Maybe only just one other. Keep it nice and small. On a night that you guys can all organize, that we can all play together. And I want to, I want to run, like... World's End with you guys. Like I would love to see, because you guys have thoughts on, because that would show me what does it look like when people kind of know the premise and they're going to start thinking up cool things and they have cool characters. And I also want to run it where people have no idea about it, like they've never heard it, they haven't had any prep.
No, I think that's,
and I want to run it that way and just to see it. So we got to come up with some point where you have a free night. Dan has a free night. I have a free night.
I'm always, I could do that.
Right.
As long as it's late is usually what it comes down to. So
yeah, well, and if we're gonna play with somebody in Australia, that probably works out.
Or early. I could do really early. I had a thought and it's gone now, but it had something to do with games. So there you go.
Because I love the idea of throwing that weird class combo thing at you guys too. Let you pick an archetype and an element, and then we could, or what could be really fun about that idea is that we collaborate on what we think the abilities should be.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We talk it out and we discuss, like, oh, at this level, it'd be cool if my character kind of had this one mobility thing he could do. Or it'd be cool if I finally got this, I could do a breath weapon. Or it'd be cool if I could finally do this one thing at this level.
No, when I was testing...
that fits the theme. That's so good.
When I was testing modular D6, that was really awesome because the players would be like... We were specifically talking about dual wielding. And I was like, well, I kind of think it should work like this. And then he straight up was just like, well... it would be more fun if I could do this. And I'm like, you're right. And that sounds more fun.
Yeah.
And I was restricting it for a reason I don't know why. So then we changed it because he's like, it just kind of feels like I'm dual wielding then. And I'm like, okay. So
yeah. Or the nine-tail whip is what I always go back to. You're playing your cleric. We're playing in Salt Break, which was the name of my town. And you got the nine-tailed whip. That was the symbol of your
cleric. That was fun.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that was so cool. It was a cool whip. I want to get back to playing some stuff like that and doing that. So I'm ready to run. We just got to schedule some stuff. I don't know if it has to be streamed. We could record it and not live it. We could do premiere it or just put it up and not be necessarily a live thing, but have some fun. So maybe we think of a third player. Maybe us three come up with another third player that would fit that mold. I don't know if Ted would have a night open or
got
anybody else.
Also, I've got a couple of
Nathan
people on the D&D.
Patreons.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is
do a Patreon.
The Discord? There's a couple people trying to organize a Mothership one shot right now. Which that's out, and I backed it too. You should probably go out there and back it.
Yeah.
That made me think of just trying to encourage more of us to all play games, either with or without Lucien, with or without Jordan. But the idea is like, a lot of those people are pretty. We're all kind of good people for the most part.
Yeah, we
like
all
the ones that are really annoying
all the time. Yeah,
the ones that are really annoying in Discord have left. Like not a lot of them stay because they're like bored, and I'm like, it's just cool people now. So
yeah.
All right,
we should do it. All right, so keep that in mind.
I gotta go clean my yard. I will talk to you guys later.
Buy a snowblower.
Oh yeah, it's snowing where you're at. Yeah,
snowing in Kalamazoo.
Thank you so much for watching our tangent show where we just talked about everything.
Let me get my one drink in. Pathfinder, Lost Omens campaign setting is the book that's about to come out. It's also in December.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were a Pathfinder viewer waiting all this time, you're like, all they did was talk about D&D today. Your book in December will be Lost Omens, Absalon, the City of Lost Omens, and they're also putting out a book which is The Monsters of Myth. So 2 of those books are coming out. So there you go, Pathfinder crew. There's 2 books coming for you in December.
Very exciting.
I looked it up.
We will be back next week, which is not Thanksgiving.
Nope, but the week after.
But the week after is. So we'll talk. We'll probably still do a show. I don't know how busy I'll be, but
I'll be around.
Okay.
I'm not going nowhere.
Cool.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.